Alright guys, so in this video we're taking a look at the Hawkeye Captain 10-inch FPV monitor, and I hooked this up to my SharkBite system because I know that's going to be one of the more popular questions. Does it work with SharkBite? Yes, it does. I have a mini HDMI to a full-size HDMI cable. You have to buy that separately. And you see the image here. You see my hand? This camera right here. This is the Fox here Digisite. Now, for whatever reason, it only seems to work in 4:3 mode and HDMI. I haven't figured out how to get it to work in 16:9, even though it's a 16:9 panel. It's like a 1280 by 720 panel, IPS panel. But you know, it's pretty high resolution. It's a nice big 10-inch screen. So if you like flying through a monitor, which I don't know a lot of you who might, but I think maybe people who fly planes might, this will work great. That's a nice high resolution image. And of course it's digital. And we'll go ahead and unhook all this before everything overheats, and we'll talk about the rest of the monitor. Alright, quickly just show you what else you get in the box. You get some standard rubber ducky antennas. You don't need, I would recommend getting something better to get better reception. You get an AV cable, works on the side. Pretty standard stuff for a Hawkeye FPV monitor. And then for power on the side here is a barrel plug to XT60 plug, and I just have a 4S LiPo powering the monitor. I think it's a 3 to 6S for the power, and there's a fan going. You can see here this thing gets pretty hot. You can see we have two antennas here on the top, SMA connectors, and your reception is going to vary depending on more or less the quality of the antennas you have. So yeah, I would again throw away the ones that they sent and buy some nicer ones. You'll get better reception. It's obviously two different receivers and two separate receivers in diversity mode. So you get the standard diversity switching between whichever signal is best. You do, of course, you get the box back there that the monitor came in, and then it comes with this little stand. You can stand it up on if you're on a desk like here, or you can use the quarter 20 tripod mount on the bottom. We're here on the side. You have a little micro SD card slot for the included DVR. Not a very good DVR. It's a standard DVR that comes with all the Hawkeye FPV monitors. I think it's like 30 frames per second, and does some weird stuff where you can't really use the files. You can basically only use it for playing back on the monitor itself. On-off switch here. Again, back on top you have the AVN port and HDMI port. Over on the right side you have two plugs, barrel plugs for power. I'm not sure why there's two, but there's two available here. And then you have a USB port, probably for extra power out or firmware updates, and then another AV port here. And here's the back. You have looks like some speaker vent holes here for the cooling fan, and you have two basically jog dials or joysticks on the back that control all the functions. And here's some specs: 11 to 26 volts DC is the input, and no internal battery. I was a little disappointed by that because it's so big. You would think that there would be space to put internal power on this, but yeah, maybe a mod for a future video. Comment down below if you'd like to see that. So basically you use the two joysticks in the back to navigate through the menus. So if you hit the right joystick and hit the down, you get this help menu, and that shows you what all the keys do. You have the interface, OSD on and off, menu for the DVR here, and then you have a little quick guide chart that shows all the bands and channels that are available on this particular receiver, or the receivers on here. Yeah, so just hit the right stick up to turn this OSD on and off. To change the input, just hit left or right on here. So I'll go back to HDMI, AV3, DVR. So if you want to access the recordings in the DVR, you can do that. And this is the actual receiver interface here. So let me plug in something, you can see what the analog image looks like. Alright, so this is the image from an analog camera. This is the Runcam Hybrid from the analog camera portion. It's 1280 by 720. It's pretty decent resolution, and most decent FPV cameras are going to give you a good image on this monitor. And it is an IPS display, fairly fast refresh rate. You can check all the specs on the product link down below. In terms of the brightness, outdoors, it's decent. I'll show you here the recording I took of this outdoors. Basically, I didn't have a sunshade or anything like that, and I just pointed a camera at this screen while I was flying around outdoors, and you can totally see the screen, no problem. It's a fairly bright display even for outdoor conditions, but I had a little bit of a shade over the top of the monitor, like from the trunk of my car or the hatchback. So in direct sunlight, it does get washed out and it is a bit hard to see. So you probably want some sort of a sunshade of some type to just give it just to keep it out of direct sunlight, and you should be able to see the monitor fairly reasonably well. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't come with a sunshade, but I'm sure there's probably a lot of aftermarket products out there you can probably find on Amazon for other types of like TVs, for example, sunshades that can fold up and collapse. I'm sure they're not too expensive, probably like $20 or something like that, and you could use that to attach to this as a sunshade. Now, regarding range, again, as I mentioned before, really depends on the antennas you use. The receivers that are typically on these Hawkeye monitors are, I would say, slightly above average, not the best, but they're not really that bad either. So you're going to get decent range as long as you have pretty decent antennas. But if you're looking at this as a 5.8 gigahertz system for like doing really long range for like long range airplanes, this is not going to be. You're going to probably want to get like external receivers, like 1.3 gigahertz receivers, and then use the AVN to get your best reception if that's what you want to use this monitor for. But yeah, it's pretty big, pretty bulky, pretty heavy, so you're going to have a specific reason to want to get this. This is not something like, how heavy is it? Can I just like, throw it around and just carry it with me in my backpack? It's fairly heavy. So you're going to want to have a specific reason to use this. Obviously for like races or like for spectators, this is going to be great because it's a nice big screen, pretty bright, and it gets good reception. So this is going to be absolutely fantastic for people that are like just spectating. This is a great big screen for something like that. Anyway, that's going to cover it for this review of the Hawkeye Captain 10-inch FPV monitor. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.